Today on Brilliance Business TV, we have Dr. John Demartini. Dr. John is a polymath and a world-renowned human behaviour expert. His work has been described by students as the most comprehensive body of work and extensive library of wisdom. Stay tuned. Welcome to Brilliance Business TV, conversations with leading experts in business. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler. We have the wonderful Dr. John Demartini on the show today, who I've had the pleasure of interviewing a few times. I'm really looking forward to a conversation with him. We are streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're also on YouTube. We're also on the E360 TV network, going out to Apple TV, Fire, Android, Roku, and many more. We're also on USA Global Radio and Television Network, Business Innovators Radio Network, and we're also streaming through mspnewsglobal.com. So let's bring in our incredible guest, Dr. John Demartini. Hey, Dr. John, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me again.
I'm really looking forward to a conversation with you, Dr. John, and I always enjoy speaking to you, and it's always such fun topics that we talk about as well. Firstly, I hope you're keeping well in life and everything's going well. I see you're keeping yourself busy with all of your trainings and programs and traveling and stuff like that as well.
Yes, definitely. I'm in sailing right now from the Philippines into Indonesia here on my ship, and I've been doing podcasts and interviews. I did an interview with Forbes this morning and all kind of interviews and things as I go along, and very busy. I love it.
It's good to be busy, Dr. John, and thank you again. We're doing this interview because Dr. John is doing a campaign with us all about being the best version of yourself, which is a topic that I never get bored of, actually, because I feel self-improvement, it's a lifelong journey. And when you get to one destination, you realize there is actually no end destination to it. It's an ongoing process, and you can always get better and keep on improving. So thank you, John, for coming on the show again. And let's get started with the first question. What limitations do you notice people facing on their journey to become the best versions of themselves, John?
Great question. I find that many people compare themselves to other people, put sometimes other people on pedestals, admire them, even infatuate with some of them, and then minimize themselves by the law of contrast and comparison, and subordinate to their behavior and inject the values of others into their life and cloud the clarity of what their own mission is, trying to be second at being somebody else. And then that cloud makes it unclear, and they plateau in their achievements and then beat themselves up because they think they should be something they're not. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, envy is ignorance and imitation is suicide. That doesn't mean we don't want to go and learn from other people and our mirror neurons for that purpose, but it's not to be the other people. It's to learn and extract information and then stand on their shoulders, not live in their shadows. So don't compare yourself to other people. Compare your daily actions to what you value most and live congruently according to what is really priority to you, that is really clear on your mission, and give yourself permission to shine and be unique and make a difference standing out.
They're really great points, John, because we've all done it at some point, but putting other people on pedestals and idolizing other people, comparing yourself to others, it definitely does take the attention away from yourself. So I think it's about, like you mentioned, you can look at others for inspiration and think, oh, they're doing a great job at that. How can I incorporate that? But it's not, I'm just not one that ever looks at competition either. I just get on with what I'm doing in my own little bubble. And so many people that say things like it's a dog eat dog world and there's loads of competition out there. And I'm thinking, I just don't focus on those things. I just focus on what I'm doing and just enjoy the day. And I think that's a much better way to go about things. What do you think?
I'd rather not put people on pedestals or pits. I'd rather put them in my heart and use them to awaken the awareness in myself of the things that I see in others that I already have inside. It's not missing. Nothing's missing in you. If you admire somebody, it's because you already have it, or you wouldn't be able to recognize it. But honor it in the form that your values are dictating, not somebody else's. Anytime you try to live in other people's values, not your own, you self-depreciate as a feedback mechanism to let you know you're not authentic. Every symptom in business is a feedback mechanism to guide us to authenticity and to live by congruent highest value, and to make sure we strive for sustainable, fair exchange with people that we're in business with, our own customers, our employees, our stakeholders, shareholders, everyone. As long as we maintain sustainable, fair exchange with them, we're going to flourish. The second we start to get narcissistic or altruistic and try to get something or give something for nothing, we get feedback to get us back to having sustainable, fair exchange. So that's the key. And that's why putting people on pedestals or pits are distractions from putting them in our hearts and putting in caring and loving what we do every day.
Great words there. And actually, it is a bit of a life changer, John, because I know you teach this heavily. And sometimes when I've feared something about another or judged someone or saw something in another, maybe that I don't like or what I do like, but more on the negative side, no, I've kind of switched it immediately as soon as I'll catch myself. And I can just say I am and put whatever I'm judging them for. And straight away, my mind will bring some of the things that I am that. And it just changes your awareness straight away. And it's like, oh, so I am actually projecting that onto someone else. And it's actually within me. And I think that's really, really powerful for recognizing everything is within you. It does really change your perspective when you recognize, oh, I'm actually projecting that onto someone and it's actually within me. And it's quite liberating because even though you're recognizing it in yourself, it doesn't mean you're choosing that, because we're all God and we're everything. But it just means it's within us and we get to choose what we are, if that makes sense as well.
Yes. I think it was a quote in the New Testament in Romans. Not that I'm necessarily going to use that as a factual reference normally. I just happened to notice that years ago, that beware of judging others, for you do the same things. I found out that, I've taken people through reflective awareness exercises for, almost 5 decades. And I found out that we only resent things on the outside that represent parts of us inside that we feel ashamed of, that we're dissociating with pride to try to cover. And those people are bringing it into our awareness, and we're actually projecting our judgment on ourselves onto them, both admirable and despisable. And when we finally realize there's a reflective awareness, and they're helping us become aware of what we're judging in ourselves, we liberate ourselves from that judgment and give ourselves permission to appreciate ourselves. And they're our teacher. They're teaching us about how we can love and appreciate our own self. And if we're not doing that, we're basically dissociated from our own authenticity. And they're there to help us get back to it and to own it. I went through the Oxford Dictionary 40 years ago. And once I realized this principle, I decided instead of waiting for people to push my buttons and me have to learn through, trial and error, I'd use foresight and reflective awareness. And I went through the Oxford Dictionary and I underlined every behavioral trait a human being can have. I found 4,628 traits in that dictionary. There was a gentleman named Gordon Allport that did that years prior, about 35 years before me, and found 4,000 then. So obviously he found the similar ones. I went through each one and I made out on the margin of this dictionary, which was a small print, large, thin paper, large book. I went out and wrote the name of the individual who I perceived demonstrated or displayed that trait to the fullest, the most extreme example that I was aware of. And then once I wrote their initial out there, I then took the time to ask, okay, John, go to a moment where and when you perceive yourself displaying or demonstrating the same specific trait, action, or inaction that you are admiring or despising in them, or liking or disliking them, or looking up or down on in them. And where do I do it? When do I do it? Who do I do it to? And who perceives me that way? And I would keep doing that and keep repeating and where I did it until I could own it 100% through reflective awareness of what I saw in them. I identified all 4,628 traits in myself: kind, cruel, nice, mean, positive, negative, generous, stingy, open, closed, honest, dishonest. I found every trait I found in that dictionary inside myself. Now, since then, I've taken thousands, literally over a couple 100,000 people through that process. And I assure you, even though we don't want to admit it because of our addiction to pride in our amygdala subconscious mind, we automatically have whatever we see. And when we finally own all of it and don't have this fantasy of trying to get rid of half of ourselves, we can love ourselves. We think that we've been taught by moral hypocrisies, we're trying to get rid of half of ourselves to love ourselves. Get rid of this part and only do this part. Not going to happen. I mean, people think that and they have a fantasy and then they go into pride, covering up and dissociating from the parts they think they're going to get rid of, but they don't. And they attract people into their lives to wake up that part, just to humble them, to get them out of their pride and fantasy of who they are and to get them into authenticity so they can embrace the necessity for all the traits. That's why fulfillment is fulfilling your life with all the traits. You don't need to get rid of or gain anything. The Buddha said 2,600 years ago, the desire for that which is unobtainable and the desire to avoid that which is unavoidable is the source of human suffering. You have much more bigger vision to go and fulfill in life than to be caught in trivial assumptions that you're supposed to get yourself cut in half. Your wholeness is able to do extraordinary things, and you need to be the hero and the villain. You need to be both sides in order to achieve greatness. If we take someone like even a president that's running the United States, he's a hero and a villain, to people. There's somebody out there that looks up to him and sees him as a hero, and there's another person looks down on him and sees him as a villain. You can't make it to the highest levels in business or in government or any form of leadership without being a hero and a villain to somebody. So the spectrum of values across the planet are automatically labeling people all kinds of things. You got to be able to embrace and have the resilience and adaptability and thick skin to be able to be embracing all parts of how people perceive you. If you want to be stable and centered and go forward as an ambitious individual and achieve greatness.
We're whole and complete. And like you say, being complete is owning all parts of yourself. And I definitely noticed it with negative things, judging it in others, and it's not until you become more aware and you start recognizing it in yourself. And there are some things that I didn't even want to admit were me, but when you do, it's like, well, I'm not choosing that, but it is part of me, and it instantly it integrates you. It just makes you feel better when you do that. And instantly it works really quick as well. When you do this and you've projected something onto someone, as soon as you start recognizing it's within yourself, it instantly takes that fear or that projection from the other person, and you can love that other person more, if that makes sense as well.
And yourself more.
Yes, definitely. And it is really, really liberating. And also I've noticed when you don't recognize the negative, or what people perceive as the negative side, it gets louder and it fights harder. So you cannot get away from it. You may stay in positivity for a certain amount of time, but at some point, all of that suppression of that negative side is going to come back, and it will get stronger and stronger until you start recognizing it and allowing it and giving it the love that it's looking for. Did you want to say something?
That's called the hedonic adaptation, or the hedonic paradox, because we try to get rid of half of ourselves to love ourselves, and it's unnecessary. I realize that the traits that we think are terrible aren't, and the things that we think are terrific aren't. They're just traits. All traits are neutral until somebody with a subjective bias interprets the traits with some moral hypocrisy. I found out that I had a lovely gentleman that attended one of my programs, the Breakthrough Experience. And he said, well, his father was really cruel and mean, and his mother was very nice and peaceful. And the two together was necessary for maximum growth, because maximum growth and development occurs at the border of the pairs of opposites. And you need both support and challenge to grow. If you get over supported, you become juvenilely dependent. If you become overly challenged, you become precociously independent. One makes you work for others, subordinating, and the other makes you an entrepreneur. And I asked him, I said, what's the downside of being supported by your mother? At first he said, well, I can't think of any. I said, look again. And then he started to think. He says, well, if I would have stayed in my mother's little support cocoon, I would never have been an entrepreneur. Okay, keep going. And now I'm having to take care of her, because she was never able to take care of herself. And I'm now been, and I realized my dad is the one that kicked my butt. And my dad basically made me go out and become independent. I'm an entrepreneur today. And he started to see the benefits to what he thought was terrible and the drawbacks to what he thought was terrific. And he realized that it was neither one of those. And when you're able to see both sides simultaneously, Wilhelm Wundt called that simultaneity of contrast. When you're able to do that, you liberate yourself from the emotional distractions. Anything you infatuate occupies space and time in your mind and runs your life. Anything you resent occupies space and time in your mind and runs your life. When you love it, you liberate yourself, clear your consciousness, don't have extrinsic things running your life, and then the voice and the vision on the inside gets to guide you to something great.
It's very, very powerful, and I would even encourage people out there to really start doing the exercise and really owning all of the traits and recognizing it in themselves, because it instantly takes judgment from other people, and it instantly takes projections from other people, and it kind of takes those glasses and filters off you, where you're judging other people and projecting things onto them. And then when you realize it's yourself and it's all within you, it's like, I've actually been making so many false assumptions. It's unreal. It's really, really liberating. And I'm going to take Dr. John's advice today and become more of a villain. I think I need to bring my villain side out even more. Dr. John, what advice do you have for individuals wanting to break through their limitations?
Well, find out if it's really a limitation first. Sometimes, I have a set of values, and up on the top of my values is teaching. Second is researching and writing. They go together. Third is traveling, because I do that. Fourth is probably building my fortune, which I've been blessed to do. And fifth is possibly relationships, social relationships, and close relationships. Nobody's right or wrong for their values. Each individual makes up their uniqueness by the expression of it. But the second you try to live outside what your true values are and try to be somebody you're not, you're going to create symptoms in your physiology and psychology to let you know you're not being authentic. And you're basically injecting outside influences into your life, trying to be second at being somebody else. Now, I'd like to share a story if I can. Can I share a story on success in business?
Of course you can.
I had a gentleman come to me and he says, Dr. Demartini, I want to hire you to consult with me to help me become successful. I said, fine. He says, I asked him a simple question. I said, so where are you successful? And he said, I'm not successful. I want to be successful. And I said, great. So where are you successful? He said, Dr. Demartini, you're not listening to me. I'm not successful. I want to be successful. I said, great. You're not listening to me. I'm asking a question. Where are you successful? And he goes, I don't understand. I'm not. I want to be. And I said, no, I'm asking a very important question. Where are you achieving what you set out to achieve? And he stopped and reflected, and he said, all right, I have a magnificent wife that we've been together 10 and a half years. And our relationship is, unbelievable compared to what I see out there. And I think that is a high achievement that very few people seem to obtain. We really are like two peas in a pod, and we have a lot of love for each other, and we have closeness like I haven't seen in most all of my friends. I said, great. Where else are you successful? Well, now that I think about it, I have an amazing relationship with my son also, and I'm the coach of a baseball team, and we are probably going to win the pennant this summer. I said, great. Where else are you successful? He says, now that you're making me think, we work in the yard as a family, and we have this most beautiful yard, and I think we're going to get yard for the summer again. And yeah, we all work as a team, and we really have a beautiful flowered and gardened yard. I said, where else are you successful? Well, my mother-in-law lives with me, and I don't know of anybody that has their mother-in-law living with them and doesn't want to choke them. We have this amazing relationship with our mother-in-law, and she's living, and she helps us with the kids. She helps us, and she's just really an amazing mother to have around. I said, where else are you successful? Well, I do some ministerial work on Wednesdays and sometimes on Sundays, and that's been a goal of mine since my 20s. And yeah, I'm getting to do what I set out to do. And I said, can you see that you have areas of your life that you are achieving and succeeding in? He goes, okay, I can see that. I said, the reason why you think you're not successful is you're comparing yourself to somebody out there that has a different set of values and is excelling in a different area. So who are you comparing yourself to? He says, I think I know. And so who is it? He said, well, there's this doctor down the road a bit, up the hill a bit, and he's got a 6,000 square foot home and a 3-car garage, and he's got a bunch of cars, and he's got this big practice, and he makes a lot of money, and I guess I'm comparing myself to him. And I said, great. Do you know him very well? Yeah, pretty well. Do you know his family? Yeah. Do you know his wife? Yep. How's his relationship with his wife? He goes, it's interesting you ask. It's very volatile. They break up and make up all the time, and they're screaming half the time. And it's very volatile relationship. He's getting all this accolade at work, and she's giving him a hard time at home, and there's a lot of volatility. I said, great. And how about his relationship with his kids? Do you have a son? He goes, yeah, he's got a son. How's that relationship? Well, he's having some problems in school and doing drugs, and he's a teenager, and yeah, he's a little older than my son, but yeah, they're having a lot of challenge with him, and he's trying to be independent young, but yet he's still at the same time, expecting unrealistic expectations because he's spoiled, I guess. He's a little entitled, this kid. I said, what about relationship with the yard? Does he have a beautiful yard? Well, yeah, he's got a yard and it's nice and all, but I don't think he's ever been in it. He just has somebody take care of it, and he drives right past it. I don't think he even smells the flowers. I said, what about his relationship with his mother-in-law? Oh, yeah. They moved out of the country to get away from that crazy lady. He doesn't even allow that lady near that house. He has to go golfing if she comes around. And then what about the ministerial work? Is he involved in his church in any way? Oh, no, he's not. That's not his thing. He's focused on business and that kind of thing. I said, let me explain to you. Would you trade places with him if you could have his wife and family and dynamics that he's got to have his business? He goes, oh, God, no. I said, let me explain. He's not more successful than you. He's just got a different form of success. He has a high value on business and finance and a lower value on relationship and, esoteric spirituality. And as a result of it, he's excelling in his area of expertise and his core competence and his values, but he's not in yours. And he probably wishes, for the sake of saving his fortune, to not have the crazies with his wife, because it's probably volatile. He could lose everything and cut it in half very quickly. So he's probably looking at you as a success in your relationships and your spiritual path. You don't have less success. You have your own success. And if you compare yourself to others, you won't honor your success, and you'll miss out on the magnificence of who you are. And he got to a point, he goes, I never would have thought like that. You hit me from left field. I was thinking I need to be more like him. Well, then you're trying to copy. And I said, Trying to be him with your set of values will create internal conflicts. And if all of a sudden you were to double and triple your business, you'd be afraid of a divorce in your family. And then that would undermine what your highest value is, which is love for your wife. He said, well, that's true. That's one of the reasons I'm afraid to go out and do some of the things that I see these guys do that do really well, because they end up losing their wives. And I don't want to lose my wife. I love my wife. I said, and then honor your values and honor your form of success. Everybody's got a different form of success, and none are better than worse. They're just different. And the world needs all the value systems to function.
That's a great story, John. And I bet the doctor is looking at the gentleman wishing he had his life as well. So you can never judge on someone else's outward appearances either. You should never compare yourself to others. And I think that story just shares beautifully how to not compare yourself to others, but also focusing on your own unique talents and your own skills and your own values is really, really important. And I think from that story as well, really appreciating the abundance that's already in your own life, because that guy had to really think about it at first. And when you brought the spotlight on it, we all have so many blessings from running water, food, even the simple things. It's about really appreciating the blessings in our lives. And that story is a great example of that.
Yeah, when we're grateful, my mom taught me when I was very young, at 4 years old. She said, when you're grateful for what you got, you get more to be grateful for. But you are going to have limited beliefs when you compare yourself to other people's values, and you're automatically not going to appreciate it because of comparison. You know, I want to share a little thing. If you had 3 beakers of water in front of you, one was at 40 degrees cold, one was at tepid at 72, and another was hot. If you take your hand and put it, first you put thermometers in and you measure them, and the thermometers give you an objective reading. But if you put your hand into the hot one and just leave it there for a second, and then guess what temperature is that, you'd probably say, oh, 140 degrees. Let it cool back down to tepid water temperature, then put it into tepid water, and you go, okay, that's about 72 degrees. Take it out, put it in the cold water. Oh, that's about 40 degrees. Your perception of the water would be pretty close of the temperature. But if you put your hand into the hot water and let it get almost scalded for a second, take it out and quickly put it in the tepid water, you would swear instead of 72, you'd call it 50, because you would distort it because of the comparison. And if I put your hand into the cold water and left it there and let it get cold and take it out, put it in the tepid, you'd swear it was 90 because of comparison. And that's what we do. We have distortions of who we are, and we exaggerate or minimize ourselves with pride or shame, which is inauthentic imposter syndromes. The second we compare ourselves to others instead of comparing our own actions to our own highest values. That's a huge difference. That's why if you stick to that, it was Phelps who's got 28 gold medals that talked about that in one of the interviews, and how if he looks to the right or left before he dives into the water, he already lost the race. He has to look forward and not be distracted by things on the side. The distractions of impulse to those we seek and the instincts to those we avoid distract us in our interpretation of our reality and keep us from a high prioritized daily actions.
Again, that's very, very true. And I think it's the same with horses, and when they're racing, they put the blinders or blinkers on them so that they can't see either side of them as well. So it makes sense to not look sideways. I think it's okay to look at others if you're looking at them from a good place of inspiration and not envy or competition or comparison. It's two very different things when you're inspired by someone or you're comparing yourself and comparison with someone. It's two very different things. What best approach do you have for individuals wanting to become the best version of themselves?
Well, if you dedicate to what's highest in priority, according to your own authentic values, and delegate anything less, you're going to build incremental momentum towards the greatest achievement. Prioritize and delegate. Now, it's so easy to say, but so many people are afraid to delegate lower priority things that devalue them and distract them and not give themselves permission to go focus on what's the absolute most productive, most meaningful thing they can be doing. I was here on my ship about a year and a few months ago, and there was a lovely gentleman who was one of the great pianists in the world, one of the greatest. When he was 3 years old, he started playing the piano. By the time he was 9, he was doing concert piano concertos and performances on classical music and all over the world. I mean, Metropolitan, the Met, you name it, all over the world, all kinds of performances. I asked him about his journey, and I was just trying to anticipate how many hours did he put focus on this, just out of curiosity. And I was thinking probably 3 to 5 hours, maybe a little longer per day, working on this. Now, I have 4 grand pianos on the ship here, and every moment I saw him, he was at the piano. And I asked him this question, and he said he's averaged 13 hours a day for 77 years.
Wow. And
I said, that leaves me, amazed by that. I said, and out of curiosity, what inspired you to do it? He says, I'm a pianist. That's my mission. That's who I am. That's my life's mission. And he said, I have 8,000 pieces of music memorized by heart. I don't have to look at music. Now, he said, I don't have a high value on relationships. I don't have any kids. I don't have a focus on exercise and fitness and bodybuilding. I'm a pianist. But he was in great shape. He looked amazing for 80 years old. You would not know he was 80 years old. He looked like he's 60, maybe. He was inspired by what he did, and he lived for the piano. I was having dinner one time with Tom Jones, the singer, and Tom Jones told me, he just finished a performance, and it was a late dinner, and he just came in and he said, I'm having my dinner. I'll have a glass of wine. I'll get up in the morning. I'll have a protein shake. I'll do my workout. I'll do my scales, and I'll perform. He says, I'm a singer. This is what I live for. Now he's about in those 80s too, and he's still doing it. And my mom introduced me to Tom Jones when I was a young boy. And I'm 70 now. So that's how long he's been at it. And the people that find their mission, that find the calling, they're, as Marilyn Wilhelm calls it, the gift for their life, that they contribute to the world. Finding that and giving themselves permission to prioritize that and delegate everything else that's not inspiring away, and liberate and surround themselves with experts to do the things that they can delegate away, and give themselves permission to excel and become great at something, gives them a competitive advantage. But they don't even care about competing. It just gives them a competitive advantage because they're now doing what Ricardo said. If you go to a country and find the natural resource, it gives it a competitive advantage, and target that and trade that with another country that has its comparative advantage. Both economies go up. And that's what we're doing. Our greatest comparative advantage always comes from what we value most in our life, our highest priorities. So if we don't fill our day with high priority actions that inspire us, it fills up with low priority distractions that don't. If we don't pursue challenges that we want to solve, that inspire us, we're going to keep getting challenges that don't. And if we don't go after something that's deeply meaningful and go after and do something that produces a remuneration for something meaningful, we're going to end up getting money without meaning and have debauchery. Philanthropy comes from the love of doing what we love to do with the people we love to do it with. That's a very empowering state to be in.
Well, firstly, John, Tom Jones looks amazing, and he's still got the most incredible voice now. And those examples as well, it just shows you why it's important to live by your values. And when you're doing something you love, because the thought of me sitting at a piano for 13 hours, I would get bored after 15 minutes. It's really important to be doing what you love, because then you're just doing what you love, coming from your values, and that's living your life with purpose, on purpose, which is really, really important to really be satisfied in life, isn't it?
I do seminars every day, some sort of presentation or put out some sort of education process every day. And sometimes I'm doing a program, a workshop all day, 14 hours. And people go, I don't know how you do it. I said, it's very simple. This is what I love to do. And you probably, people go, well, what do you do for relaxing? What do you do to get away? I said, I don't need to do that. But in their mind, because of their values, if they were to do what I do, they would go, I couldn't do that. I would need a break, because they need a break from that because it's not their values. But what's important to them, they can do it all day. So I just had dinner last night with a guy who's a bridge champion or whatever. I'm not sure how it's structured because I'm not a bridge guy. But him and his wife are there. They go travel around the world and they do bridge and train people on bridge. And they get paid moderately. It's not big money, but they love doing it, and that's what they do. But they can play bridge all day long. That's what they love doing. So I found that people really, when they're doing something they really love to do, time dissolves. They found out that emotions distort the fabric of space and time, but love dissolves it. And you are timeless and spaceless. You're present. And when you extract out space and time from your mind and become present, amazing capacity, superpowers come about. And you're able to do things that other people only fantasize about, but you're able to live. And that's why extracting out space and time from your mind and being present with what you really love doing. When you're grateful for what you get to do, when you love what you're doing, you're inspired by a vision, you're enthusiastically working, you're certain about your skill, and you're present when you do it, it's unstoppable, and you're going to rise to the top.
Very, very powerful words. And it's just reminding me, firstly, I wanted to say, love what you do. I forgot how I was going to word it, but love what you do. I'll come back to that one. However, it's reminded me of something I say to myself, where I say, I have no past, I have no future, I'm here in the present moment. I think it's really important. And I just noticed lately, it's like I like to have a bit of balance. I like spending like those few hours on work really putting in the action, but then I like to have that little bit of time going and feeding my birds at the local pond and doing something to just be in nature, be really present. But I just noticed, because I'm living my life doing what I actually want to do, and getting the balance of things of how I want to do it. I even do workouts 3 times a week. I'm not big on workouts, but I like to keep it, to know I'm healthy. I'm like 42 now, so I want to keep getting better with age. And because I'm doing things that I actually want to do and what I love, I notice the days are getting faster and faster. Like 1 minute it's a morning, and then it's like 8 p.m. on a night, and I'm like, wow, today has gone so quick. But I am practicing presence more and more and more, staying present. I found an incredible meditation the other day, because I'd started to go into my head a little bit with my thoughts, and they'd really started to become a part of me a little bit. I found this meditation where it's only 10 minutes. It's one of the most powerful meditations I've ever done. It worked instantly, where you step back from the thoughts, don't judge them, and just completely be the observer of every single thought. Watch it, let it go, watch it, let it go. Instantly it took me back into the present, out of my head, ground into the awareness of the hands and the body as you're observing the thoughts. There's definitely power in being in this now moment and getting out of the past and projections of the future, knowing everything is in this now moment. And it allows you to appreciate everything that's going on in your life, because you're present with everything. Because I think it's so easy to project into a future, look into the past, when actually in the present moment none of those things matter. Everything is now, and it takes a lot of problems away when you do live in the present moment, doesn't it, John?
Yes. We have a subcortical nuclei in the brain called the amygdala. And neuroscience shows that the amygdala assigns valency, which is emotional, positive or negative charge, to our perceived events. When it does that, it then puts those into the hippocampus, which is our short-term memory storage center, and stores them as episodic memories, little episodes of this that we judge and that we judge. And we store that as a memory, and we keep those then in the past. Anytime we have a memory that is a negative memory, we'll dissociate from it. And anytime we have a positive memory, we'll have a fear of its opposite. So what happens is we automatically distract ourselves in the perception of time and create the arrow of time, which is the source of entropy in physics, the arrow of time. And the moment we go in and are in distracting ourselves from the present into memory and imagination, and these simultaneously go on in the hippocampus, and we distort the fabric of space and time in the grid cells and the place cells, which is near the hippocampus and the entorhinal complex. The moment we do, we automatically age. We get a timeful mind, ageful body. Aging is a feedback mechanism to let us know we're not present and that we're storing valently, emotionally charged events in our mind, in our subconscious mind, that's causing us to seek or avoid and be externally driven instead of internally called. The moment we go in and find the upsides to what we thought was down, the downside to what we thought is up, and neutralize the perception, the episodic memories poof, and we now become present in that moment. And that's where we have the most power. Entropy is missing information, as Claude Shannon said in his information theory. And negentropy, or the hidden order in life, is reclaiming the information that we're oversighting. When we're infatuated with something, we're conscious of the upsides, unconscious of the downside. That's a positive valency. When we're resentful to something, we're conscious of the downside, unconscious of the upside. That's a negative valency. Anything with valency, we're unconscious of what's there, and we're not fully conscious. That's why we're judging it. The moment we go into the meditation, or the moment we do the method I've developed, or any method that allows us to become fully conscious and see both sides simultaneously, where it's neither positive nor negative, it's neither, we become present, and we're now poised, purposeful, patient, productive, prioritized, and now we're going to end up having the most inner peace, if you will, the inner peace, not outer peace, but inner peace and presence.
But I find once you change the inner, the outer changes too, and it gets a lot better as well, Dr. John. And that's so true what you say. I found a great app the other day, which I've been using, and it's really good for like any negative memories or images that may disturb you a little bit. And you only use it for 2 hours a day. It will ask you a few questions to bring up a few things. And it's like an eye movement decentralization app. And you literally bring up these images or memories, and it will show a smiley face emoji, and you just follow your eyes on the emoji bringing up the memory. And what it does, it's like a memory reconsolidation, because when you bring up memories, it normally brings up things how you last saw that memory. So it's kind of putting the smiley emoji to the memory. It's really powerful for like any traumatic things you've experienced or memories, for really storing those past memories in a more productive way, and making images smaller in your mind that used to bother you. And it's a really great app that I've been using, just 2 minutes a day as well. And I think that's a bit similar to what you're saying about the past memories or projections into the future. So I think our advice here is the importance of staying present in the now moment. Now, go ahead.
Our intuition is constantly trying to reveal what we've been unconscious of so we can be fully conscious. But our impulses and instincts of the amygdala are positive feedback systems distracting us into drama. But our intuition is a negative feedback system to try to bring us to homeostasis and to make us poised and present. And so wisdom is listening to that intuitive side to reveal the side we're ignoring. So we don't have ignorance, we have wisdom.
Yes. And a lot more people should discuss this, because especially in the personal development world and manifestation and self-improvement, sometimes it's overly focused on the positive and the negative. And I tried that and it's exhausting. It doesn't work. And it wasn't until I started embracing the two sides, integrating the shadow, embracing the negative and the positive, accepting all parts of myself, integrating it all into one, that you can become present and whole and be balanced. And it has to be balanced.
And the illusion is that was the shadow. That's the illusion. See, we start out with a moral hypocrisy from childhood, from mothers, fathers, preachers, teachers, conventions, traditions, and mores. Be nice, don't be mean, be kind, don't be true, cruel, be positive, don't be negative, be peaceful, don't be wrathful. And they're trying to get you to be one-sided. And you have elementary school, that's the wrong answer, that's the right answer. It's all dualistically polarized. And so we're raised on this idea that we have to get rid of half of ourselves. We have to edit ourselves constantly. And you're not going to love yourself trying to get rid of half of yourself. And so when you finally embrace all of you, the shadow is just as important as the so-called light, and the light has the shadow in it. It's a yin and yang symbol. And when you realize that there's a shadow inside the light and light inside the shadow, you realize those labels are even in the way. The labels we give things are distractions and incomplete awarenesses and parts of our ignorance instead of seeing the whole. When we realize that there's two sides simultaneously, all we see is there's nothing but love. All else was an illusion.
Very, very powerful. And I think embracing the both sides helps you to bring more love and get into that state of love and coming from a place of love as well. Now, John, I know you're working on a movie at the moment. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, actually, a lovely gentleman and his wife asked if they would do a movie on some of the work that I've been doing around the world in the Breakthrough Experience program and in my methodologies. And they filmed it, and they filmed it in many places around the world, and they produced it. And we did a London premiere about a month ago, and it came out fantastic. And we got a full crowd. It was a completely packed theater, and we got a standing ovation, 2 standing ovations. And we've run a bunch of awards on it. It's just called Breakthrough Movie with Demartini, just Breakthrough Movie Demartini. You'll bring it up, and you see the trailer on it. And it's going to actually launch and actually come out into and be available on the various formats, Apple and iTunes, all those, in about a month and a half. By October, it'll be out. And I'm so very pleased with that. I'm very grateful. I've been blessed to be in a lot of documentary movies, and but this is one that's about the work that I've been doing around the world, and I'm very grateful that they took the time to do it. It's not my movie; it's just a movie about what I'm doing, and so I'm very pleased that they took the time and put that together.
Dr. John, it's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. I really resonate with your work and how you teach, and they are really life-changing. I just know that, especially from what I mentioned about projecting things onto others, and when you see it in yourself, you instantly remove those filters off the other person and realize, wow, it's me. I've been seeing this in them, and it's me all along. How can people connect with you, and who should connect with you?
Well, the easiest way to just reach me is just to go to my website, drdemartini.com, which I see you have right there. I figure that if I'm speaking here, if somebody resonates with something I might said, they'll be probably naturally curious, and they'll go to the website. On there, there's a value determination process that I can encourage people to do. It's free, it's private, it takes about 30 minutes of their time. It's an eye-opening questionnaire to take a look at what you really your life really demonstrates is important to you instead of what your fantasies might be. And it's eye-opening. I think if people started there on the website, they might find that really fruitful. And then they can just go and look under what I'm doing around the world, events or whatever, if they want, or other things, and podcasts and media and stuff. There's plenty of, keep you busy on that website for as long as you want to be there. But I think that's the best place. And if they look under, the social media, I think I'm pretty well on that social media world out there a bit. They can find me and follow me around that way. But that drdemartini.com is probably the best place to start.
Yes, I have noticed, John, you're very visible on social media lately. I've seen a lot of your videos, interviews, talks coming up. So great job there as well. I would encourage everyone to really go in and do that questionnaire that John has mentioned at drdemartini.com. That's drdemartini.com. John, thank you so much for being my guest today. As always, I thoroughly enjoyed having a conversation with you.
I had the same. I thank you. It's great questions, and it's great to see you again. So thank you for the opportunity.
It's great to see you. Thank you once again. Thank you everyone for joining us for Brilliance Business TV, conversations with leading experts in business. Until next time, bye for now.